Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here to share the speaker portion of our Connections After Hours gathering of the On Purpose Woman Global Community. Elaine Robinson Beattie is speaking on Leading Authentically, Women to Women, Courage, Curiosity, Connection, Clarity, and Celebration. Elaine Robinson Beattie is an inspiring and thought-provoking speaker, igniting her audiences into action. As a leadership coach and master storyteller, she imparts strategies, leaving the attendees with an enhanced toolkit. She's a certified diversity, equity, and inclusion trainer, creating workspaces that are more empathetic, efficient, and effective for all. She has spent over 21 years as a senior executive of Fortune 500 companies in the hospitality industry, working across the USA and Canada. So, Elaine, when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Jenny. As always, it is such a pleasure to be in the company of you and such amazing women. We have overcome a lot, and tonight is my hope and desire that we can together talk about leading authentically. And I say women to women. No, that was not a typo. It is women to women. And as we go through the night, in the evening, the couple of minutes we have together here, I would love for you all to think about just one objective, and that is to release women, not only yourself, but women that you associate with, from the limiting beliefs, behaviors, expectations that hold women back from accomplishing extraordinary results. Would you all agree that that is one thing that we can move forward to? If you agree, just kind of raise your hand, say, yep, I'm in. Very good. Okay, great. One of the ways I would like to suggest that we do this, and this is from the very beginning, I just want to just share a strategy, is that we come up with a group agreement. When women start to work, usually we just get in there and just start rocking and rolling. One way for us to work, I think, authentically, to really be who we are, is to be able to set some ground rules. Would you agree that that's important? Would you agree? You can say yes, yes in the chat. You know, I am, as you can tell, a woman of color, and African American people, we do this talking back and forth to one another, right? So I want to make sure that you all are with me. So you can comment in the chat, you can raise your hand, you can give me a sign of some kind that you are with me, because I want to know that you are right there. Okay, so actually, as just a simple group agreement, I want to just make some suggestions, and if you have some, again, you could put them in the chat. What do you need in order to show up authentically? For me, I need to know that there is attention paid to the speaker. And so I would prefer that there is no side chatting, right? Side talking. That always distracts me. Please put in the chat those things that you will need, and I'll just read them off. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I hear you, that it's a pet peeve of yours. Thank you so much, Jenny. Thank you so much. How about timeliness? Do some of you need timeliness, right? Recognition of that. What else do you need? Yes, starting on time, ending on time, right? And if we're in a group and doing some work, is confidentiality one of those things, right? Clear objectives is important, right? How about if we're brainstorming, that we don't have any naysayers in the brainstorming process, right? We just throw it out there. Exactly. And respect each other's, yes, people's views, even if we disagree, right? We can disagree. We can agree to disagree. Right. No negative talk. Right. We don't need it. We don't need it. So again, if we are going to come together, whether it's just one other person or a group of people, and if you're in the group, before you get to work, I want to suggest that the one way that we stay authentic is to help set some ground rules and to say, this is what I need from the very beginning so that I can show up being my best self. Before I get into strategies, I wanted to share a little bit about my story. And for those of you who don't know me and have not heard my story before, I'm originally from New York. And what you are looking at is my apartment building. It is 40 stories high in Manhattan on the Upper East Side. And most people think, gosh, how could you live like that? Well, that's what we know in New York, right? We grew up in apartment buildings. But one of the fascinating aspects of my life is that it's always been about diversity. From the time I can remember my first apartment building, and it was only 10 stories high, I remember growing up on a floor that was very diverse. My best friend, Mindy, was Jewish. She lived next door to this Italian family who lived next door to two boys who, one was disabled. We think he had multiple sclerosis, but we didn't know anything other than he was Andy and he was in a wheelchair and we used to run up and down the halls with him, right? He wasn't different. He was just in a wheelchair. And then there was Uncle Tony and Aunt Armida, who were our adopted, right? I just learned this word this weekend and I just love that. Family, right? So friends that became family. And she was Puerto Rican and he was Russian. The point to me telling you this is that, and then there were the Robinsons, of course, right? So we were this diverse floor. That is what I know. That is my foundation. When we moved to Manhattan, it was the same thing. You can get on my elevator right now today, and you can hear 5 different languages, right? English, Spanish, Italian, French. It is the world that I know. I say that to say that that is my cultural consciousness. That is my awakening. And I want to ask you all to think right now and to put into the chat, what experiences have impacted or even changed your worldview? And I say that in the context of us being women doing what we have been called to do. What has been that thing that has changed your worldview? For me, and I'm going to keep talking and you all can just put them in the chat. For me, it really was about self-awareness. And you heard Ginny give a little introduction in the beginning about how we've come together. This course that we both took was about self-awareness. And it's so important that we know who we are and how we got to be who we are. With that being said, there was the part of New York and growing up in Manhattan, a Black family. My mom was from the South, my dad was from Philadelphia, right? The educational background, all that, right, starts to formulate who we are. And then there's the work life. Shelley wrote, getting to spend time with writers of all backgrounds. Yes, I can understand and see how that would shift your cultural context. Let's see, what's another one? Being a college freshman and meeting and becoming great friends with some New Yorkers who, for this little girl, was from, okay, let's see. Appalachia. Yes, absolutely. I can imagine how different that was. Absolutely. Being Jewish and more specifically, a Jewish woman also who lived in different parts of the country, the Northeast, the Southeast, the Northwest. Yes, all these things matter, right? And they give us context. Well, to add on to a little bit of who I am and how I've come to be who I am and do the work that I do, is that I ended up after college being accepted into the management training program for Sheraton Hotels. I spent 21 years working in hotels specifically, and 25 to 30 in various other ways as a consultant and trainer and recruiter, all kinds of different ways. And in fact, I worked at the US Tennis Open as a director of human resources. So I worked for these different companies around the country, in Canada, and I got to experience, right, what it was like to be raised up as a manager, as a leader, really from one context. Can you guys, and I say guys, that's a New York thing, can you all think of and maybe suggest what was the framework, the mindset that was shared most oftentimes with me? It was the mindset of an older white male, right? That was the context in which my training was put into. So oftentimes when I would say something, they'd say, Elaine, just get over it. Elaine, wait, just let it ride. Oh, that's not really important. Or we've heard that before. It was oftentimes, when I would bring up something that was really legitimate, and believe me, I would wait, I would ponder, I would think about, what I was about to say, and then I would get that response. Yeah. Oh, buck up and get over it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yes. Is that Ginger? Yeah. Gina. Yeah. So all that. Well, you can imagine that started to seep in, and it really started to unnerve my confidence until I realized that there was something else going on that was never entered into the conversation. And that was the issue of equality, equity, and justice. And can I say that this knowledge alone opened me up widely. Equality, equity, and justice. Equality, right? The assumption that everyone benefits from the same support. Isn't that what most people just say? Oh, just make things equal. Well, I agree on equal pay for equal work. Yes, I get that, right? But equity is a different thing. All of us do not start from the same place. Would you agree with that, ladies? We have not started from the same place. And so because of that, some of us might need 2 boxes to stand on, right? In order to see the game. Some of us might just need 1 box. But the truth of the matter is, if we're really fighting, and I say fighting, standing up, holding the flag, waving the flag, whatever language you want to use for justice, right? Being cheerleaders for justice, we will look at the cause of the injustice. Again, when I received this knowledge, when I understood what was really going on, it changed how I thought about who I am and the work that I was to do. So we talked about the breakout question, right? What are some of your limiting beliefs and one belief that you have overcome and how? And I will say that your comments just in the group that I was in were exactly right on. And I'm going to talk about those as we go forward. I have 5 different strategies that I really believe over time that any one of us, if we just took one, we would be breaking through the mindsets. But if we take a look at each one individually, we might just be able to advance and break through some of the limiting beliefs. So I want to start with courage as a strategy. Now, I'm not suggesting that we have to jump mountains, right? In fact, that could be one of the limiting beliefs. You've got to work harder. In fact, I heard that. I don't know about you. Just keep working harder. Just keep getting, more degrees. Just keep getting more knowledge, more certifications. No, I say no, right? Only if you believe and want to. But I will say that one day, when I was vacationing at a spa, I was actually in the Red Rock Mountains, and it wasn't quite this big, but it seemed like that at the time. A big crossing that I was terrified to do. Do you know how I got over it? Simply, the leader held out her hand and said, "Hold on to me." I have never forgotten that all I have to do is hold on to somebody else's hand when I'm afraid, when I'm nervous, when I don't think that I have enough. There's always someone else out there who's willing to help you. Can you right now think of one person who extended their hand to you, or one person that you can extend your hand to help them? It is so much better to do it together, right? To do it together. Hold somebody's hand. Brene Brown says, "No one belongs here more than you." We have to believe that we can do it. It is a mindset shift, but we do have to take in other thoughts, but not just other thoughts. It does require action. Curiosity. I don't know about you, but I've been told I am way too curious, right? I have lots of questions, here, there, everywhere. Well, they say curiosity killed the cat. I don't know where that really came from, but that's what they say. I often believe that I have been successful because I have been curious. I have had the courage to ask the question. I have had the courage to seek past what was just in front of me and say, is there something else? Is this the truth? Is that all? We can ask those questions. And I think when we ask those questions, right, we can then walk through doors that that were made for us, that were actually made for us. I started asking the question, what do I need to do to become a general manager, of a hotel? I started to see the light. And then when I asked the question, I started to get the answers. So I want to encourage you all, ask the questions. Have the courage to ask the question. Thirdly, connection. And I couldn't help putting this there, Jenny. I couldn't help. She is the queen of connection. We know this is why we come to these meetings. We connect on so many levels. It could be spiritual, it could be emotional, it can be in the work that we do. It could be, I just like you, you were just fun. I had an opportunity to laugh. But there is a lot that is gained through connection. When we are tasked and put ourselves in situations where we are challenging ourselves. When we have a connection with someone else, we are able to overcome, to do those things that we never thought that we could do. We gain resources, we gain words, we gain the courage, we gain all these things when we connect with someone like us. When we connect with someone who is not like us. And that's just as important. Would you agree? Courage, connection, curiosity, clarity. When we get clear about what it is we want to do, what it is we're called to do, what it is we must do. What is it that we must do, that our soul requires us to do? We can move forward. Confusion is a tactic, right? It's a tactic. And we have to break out of the confusion. And how do we do that? We surround ourselves with other people who can help us to move toward clarity. I want to suggest that clarity comes from action and not just thought. When we take a step, we go, that worked, that didn't work. We get closer to the truth. Our thoughts cannot be trusted. Our feelings cannot be trusted. Our actions are real, are tangible. When I continue to say, I'm going to be a general manager, I'm going to be a general manager, I'm going to be a general manager. How do I become a general manager? How to become a general manager? I started taking the actions to become a general manager. I started taking more courses. I had mentors. I attended meetings and conventions. I started to take the actions. I showed up where general managers were. My mentor today lives 20 minutes away from me, and I'm so excited about this. But she was an African-American woman who was a general manager of a hotel. I could see what it looked like, and that helped me. And lastly, ladies, it's about celebration. And we can celebrate alone, but it's surely better to celebrate together. Celebration is acknowledging that we made it past our fears, that we took the courage, that we were able to ask the hard questions, that we took the steps to get clear, that we took the time and made the effort to go to the networking meetings, to network, to say, I am, this is what I do. Can you help me? I'm looking for, right? The connections and being authentically you. And let me just say, there's a Bible verse that says, if they don't accept you, to kick the dust off your feet and move on. And I will say to you in another way, if you are not celebrated and you are tolerated, move on. We are to be celebrated in all that we are, in all of who we are. I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to just reiterate that it is so important that as we support one another, women to women, and let me just say that in our diversity, when we talk about the generations and when we talk about our ancestors, in some of our heritage, our ancestors are very important. As a woman of color, not only am I just Elaine Robinson Beattie, but I am the daughter of Barbara J. Robinson, who is now 88 years old and owns her own business at 88 years old and goes to work every day at 88 years old. She owns a business for over 46 years in Manhattan, an infant and child preschool. I am the granddaughter of Henrietta Robinson, who was a music teacher and a master seamstress. I am the granddaughter of Frances Harrison, who was an extraordinary cook and a baker. Those are my ancestors. Those are the women that have poured into me and have helped me to become who I am. So that's why it's not woman to woman, it's women to women. What about the mentors that you've had? What about the sisters, the aunties, the neighbors, the teachers, the bosses that you have? We are who we are because of the women that have poured into us. And I want to encourage you to continue in pouring out to other women. What thoughts, questions, main takeaways do you have at this point?
Elaine, do you want to stop your screen sharing?
I
So we
can.
see everybody. I think I'm just going to wrap up the live right now, and then we can have a little bit of a conversation. How's that sound?
That's great.
Okay, well, I've got to go back and watch this replay because you said so many things, and I didn't want to write all of them down because I wanted to be in the hearing of in the feeling of what you were saying. So thank you so much. Everybody unmute yourselves for a minute and let's give Elaine some real applause that she can hear and see. Ready? Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to anyone who is watching this live or watching the replay. If you'd like to join us for one of our 11 free Zoom gatherings each month or an in-person in Richmond, Virginia or Charlottesville, Virginia, comment below and I'll tell you how you can do that. You can also go to my website, opwgc.com, and find out all about our community. Thanks everyone for watching. Sorry about that.